Capitalism protects the North Korean regime. Change your mindset. Episode 4. The only way out to prevent the collapse, the great transformation of state capitalism. Creating the miracle on the Taedong River. North Korea's Workers' Party can implement a market economy. The more the Pyongyang leadership insists on nuclear armament, the more the regime faces external pressures that could lead to its collapse. The North Korean regime exists for the sake of the supreme leader of the Baekdu bloodline. The more power is concentrated, the greater the responsibility becomes. The scope of responsibility is so vast that it cannot be fully managed. Since those in power are also human, survival takes precedence, and in a system where criticism of the supreme leader is impossible, the regime revolves with its focus solely on the supreme leader. The hereditary vested interests of the leadership, spanning 3 generations, are closely tied to the maintenance of the regime. While it would be desirable for the country to be prosperous and the people to live well, that is a matter secondary to the regime's survival. Once vested interests are established through differentiated treatment by class, almost no one will voluntarily relinquish their monopolistic status. That is the nature of power. Such power is to be broken and seized through struggle. It is not simply given. However, such struggles are treated as challenges to the regime and result in imprisonment for life. North Korea's regime, based on selective rewards and ruthless terror, is tightly woven like a net and does not collapse easily. Therefore, it appears that the Pyongyang regime will continue unless there is a strong external shock. However, due to nuclear weapons, a shockwave of strong external pressure is approaching. The Pyongyang regime will now face a desperate crisis unlike anything seen before. For the sake of survival, the leadership in Pyongyang must shift the direction of its leadership and turn the dangerous landscape in its favor. Those who survive are not the strong but the flexible. The past is merely the past. There is nothing one cannot choose for the sake of survival. Restrictions bound by the past become obstacles to keeping up with future changes. If one cannot break the shackles of yesterday, one will die in a change tomorrow. What are the shackles fastened to the North Korean regime? It is likely ideological frames such as socialism and the monolithic ideological system. Although absolute significance has been attributed to it as the ideological pillar supporting the system, all North Koreans know that in reality, things do not operate that way. Faced with the absurdity of being unable to touch it, yet unable to protect it, and forced to violate it to survive, I felt uneasy about the duality of human nature, and human dignity was put to the test in the face of such societal duality. Socialism felt like ill-fitting clothes, no matter how much we educated and indoctrinated people day and night, whereas capitalism is something the body accepts automatically without anyone teaching it. Capitalism runs smoothly on its own even when left alone, whereas socialism feels forced, so people merely pretend to practice it formally. Humanity's experiment with socialism has already concluded as a failure yet. In the stubborn North Korea, socialism has caused countless deaths from starvation and made poverty and famine a daily reality. Despite this, the leadership in Pyongyang clings to the banner of socialism. No matter how hard one looks, there is no reason other than the advantage of using it for control. In reality, since the state lacks the capacity to provide rations, and most people live relying on markets known as Jangmadang, capitalism has effectively become a savior. Now that the government has inevitably acknowledged the Jangmadang economy, capitalism is no longer unfamiliar to North Koreans. On the contrary, capitalism is comfortable for them. The leadership in Pyongyang must now shake off this disconnect. It is time for the courage to face and acknowledge reality rather than cowardly hiding behind the facade of socialism under the pretext that control is absolutely necessary for the system. If all else fails, they can simply acknowledge and accept capitalism like China, but change the signboard to socialist market economy. If they dislike that because it feels like copying China, a name like Yushe market economy is also acceptable. After all, even if the signboard of socialism is taken down in North Korea, Hoosh retains its legitimacy. Once capitalism is officially accepted and packaged well to appear legitimate only in the initial stages, results are bound to appear soon, so no further explanation will be necessary from that point on. China did the same, and so did Vietnam. As dazzling results emerged from every pilot unit, even the conservative Communist Party elders were left speechless. If a transition to capitalism is implemented within North Korea's system in this way, internally, a natural positive cycle arising in accordance with human nature and reality will revitalize the economy. Externally, it will achieve the crucial effect of eliminating alien hostility by aligning with the world's universal capitalist market system. While one must remain wary of an enemy possessing nuclear weapons, everyone will welcome North Korea once it transforms into an interest partner that no longer needs them. For a North Korea that has become a capitalist partner, purchasing its nuclear weapons at a high price would not be a waste. The secret to killing 3 birds with 1 stone, preserving the North Korean system, realizing denuclearization, and revitalizing the economy is precisely to officially formalize the acceptance of capitalism in North Korea. State capitalism involves a centralized government partially intervening in the market, so it shares some functions with a planned economy. Introducing capitalism in North Korea would allow it to fully open the channels to the outside world that had previously been closed due to ideological restrictions. Openness is essential to revitalize the economy, yet this has not been possible until now. Because they could not open up, they could not implement reforms either. However, they are now breaking free from ideological shackles, opening their doors to the world, and stepping out into the global community. The well-organized leadership of the North Korean Workers' Party, having fundamentally changed its ideology, will be able to drive economic development through selection and concentration, thereby achieving rapid growth. Next time, we will examine together whether North Korea can truly accept capitalism smoothly. It seems like an impossible task, one that everyone finds questionable. Thank you.